Well, good evening to all of you. It is great to see you for our missions dessert. If you have not yet received your dessert, it is still coming, and you will get it very soon, or seconds or thirds or whatever. It is just great to have all of you tonight. Thanks for being so flexible in this COVID year. The adjustment from a banquet to a dessert has been tricky, but we're glad that you joined us tonight. You are in for a wonderful night. It's going to be a great time. Our theme this year, as you probably know, for Missions Week 2020 has been compelled. And our prayer is that God would speak to all of our hearts about how we can be compelled to pray and to give and to go in some new ways. Because this is a new day, and so we need some new ways in order to carry on the mission of God throughout the world. And we have some wonderful missionaries with us tonight. Our entire team is going to share briefly. Tamara Hinkas from Montenegro, Jason Noble with the Rogue Valley, Anne-Marie from Central Eurasia, and then Joel Marbett. Those last two are going to be flipped around. I didn't change the order. It'll flip around there. And in just a few moments, they're going to come and just share some stories from what life on the mission looks like, and maybe the lighter side of missions. The one thing I did want to mention to you is in our normal year, this is not the normal year, but in our normal year, we do our sacrifice offering on Sunday morning. Well, because we are gathering differently, both on-site and online, and so on, and we're giving differently now. Many of you give online or drop a check in the mail or whatever it might be. The sacrifice offering really has been happening all week long, really ramped up on Friday, Saturday, today. A lot of you have been giving throughout the day. If you want to give tonight, in the sacrifice offering, we will have someone posted at the door as you are leaving, and maybe this is most convenient for you to give tonight. And just to remind you about the sacrifice offering, it is a significant, a substantial gift that represents the sacrifice that you are willing to make to carry on the mission of Jesus in the places where our missionaries that are with us this year, where they are serving. And there are so many opportunities. You know, sometimes it works this way. When things get more challenging in the world, it actually creates more opportunities for the gospel and opportunities to carry on the message of Jesus. And that is what's happening all around the world, not just in the Mid-Valley and Lynn County and so on. So, hey, we have our first missionary up, ready to go. Tamara, here she comes. Let's welcome her to Missions Dessert. Yeah. Whoa. These guys are ready. They are ready.
Good evening. How are you? Wow. I love the energy. Thank you so much. I have just been blessed beyond measure this week, and it's always a blessing to come and visit with all of you. So thank you so much for opening up your churches and your lives and spending time with us, and just greatly appreciate it. And so for these next few minutes, I'm going to share just a little bit on just kind of the personal, like what is it like to live overseas? Now, I am a missionary now to Montenegro. I will be actually moving there for the first time in 8 weeks. I just got clearance. I'm excited to go. And but my stories are going to be from Romania, because that's been my context for the past 13 years. And so one of the things, if I've learned anything living on the mission field the past 13 years, you have to learn to have a sense of humor. And when life gets stressful, when life kind of just causes you all kinds of different situations, you just got to learn to laugh. And that's really the only way to survive. For instance, when, one of the most stressful situations I face, even now I speak the language fluently, but just dealing with trying to find quality medical care. And that can be a little challenging sometimes. And so at one time I had injured my neck. I went into the doctor. He sent me to get an MRI. Come to find out I had a herniated disc. And so he sent me to a physical therapist. And so I sit down and talk with the physical therapist, and the best I can in Romanian language. And I'm pretty certain that I have a clear understanding of the process. So I thought. And so I show up for my first appointment with the physical therapist, and the nurse brings me in, and remember, it's the injuries in my neck. And they said, okay, take off your shoes and socks and roll up your pant legs. Okay, I'm like, you got the right patient, right? And they're like, yeah. And so I do that. Of course, I'm being obedient. And so they have me sit down in this chair, and I have to put my arms in these bins and then my feet in this bucket, and they proceed to fill everything up with water. And I'm quickly going back and trying to relay the conversation I had with the physical therapist, thinking there was no mention of water at all. I'm pretty certain. And so meanwhile, they fill everything up, and then the nurse comes in and says, okay, sit patiently for 20 minutes. I'm going to begin to slowly turn on the electrical currency. And I'm going back to my childhood when we were told as kids, you know, do not play with electrical toys or toasters or hair dryers near the bathtub, because nothing good comes from that. So I'm here to stand to tell you that I have survived some sort of water or electrical shock therapy treatment or something. I don't know. So another scenario at the doctor, I had just arrived in the country, been there for just a few months, and I wasn't sure, but we thought maybe I might have had a blood clot, so went into a clinic. This was before we got into the European Union, so the medical clinics were very much worse than they are now. And so we go in there, and I have a translator because I just landed in the country a few months earlier, and so she's trying to do an ultrasound, and then she gets frustrated, stands up, and she says, I can't do this. I can't do this. And the translator's, you know, explaining this to me, and she goes, you do know that this ultrasound machine is made in China. And the Chinese are small, and you're not. So it doesn't work on big people, it only works on small people. And walks out of the room. And I'm stuck there going, looking at the translator, what just happened? So clearly I'm standing here, I have survived that event as well. So learn to laugh at the stresses in life because they can overwhelm you. And of course, you know, you can't talk about stresses in life without talking about language. And so, of course, I had just been here. I've been here in Romania for several years. And as we learn new words and add to our vocabulary, we want to use those words over and over again. So I just learned the word treabă, which means business, like I have business to take care of, or it's none of your business. And then, you know, and so I'm talking to a good friend of mine, and thank goodness she was a friend and not a public, you know, like a church or something. But I'm trying to tell Elisabetta, you know, because she was talking about all this work that she had to do, and the only word I could put into context was treabă. So I'm congratulating her, saying, bravo, bravo, ai făcut treabă mare. So, and you know, I'm trying to tell her, you did such a great job on all of this thing that you did, and she's looking at me like, okay, thank you, and then walks off, and another missionary friend comes up, and she goes, oh, Tamara, you just congratulated and encouraged Elisabetta on the great job that she did going number 2. I was telling her a great job on doing big business, so evidently big business is, yeah, that's a thing. So learn to just laugh at yourself. Sometimes you just have to step out of your comfort zone, but have a sense of humor, and when you fall flat on your face, get up and laugh about it. Like, for instance, waking up in early morning, I'm thinking I'm going to have a nice cup of coffee with my quiet time, with my devotions, and we had workers out on scaffolds. I lived in one of those former communist block apartments on the top floor, and we had scaffoldings, and all these men were working for weeks and weeks on end, and early morning, they're out there drilling, and so I'm trying to have my quiet time with the Lord and having my coffee. I'm in my pajamas, and then I hear a knock, 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 and it's not on my door. It's on my window. I'm on the top floor of this tall apartment building, and so I open up the window, and you know, we've just learned to this is the way it is. And so I open up the window, and so I'm having a conversation with the workers, and next thing I know, we're running all of their electrical wires, and they're wanting to borrow my electricity, and so we're plugging everything, and so that was my early morning, and it's just like, this is the way it is, this is life. And you know, and one of the fun things, you know, with the work that we did in Romania, we got to travel and visit villages throughout the country. Loved working in some of the remote villages. Very hospitable, very loving and kind, and just much fun. But there are some things that have happened that, you know, I'm still to this day trying to find the humor in it. And one of the experiences I had working in a village, it was a gypsy village. And I'm not going to go into the whole story, but it basically involved my hair and a massive infestation of lice. A lot a lot of lice that took months. And bless my housemate who spent days and days slowly combing through all of this. I'm still trying to find the humor in all of this, but no, I have. I found the treatment for lice. You know, how many of you have ever had angels in disguise? You know, just people that show up and you're like, this must be from God. Well, God did that in the form of the mafia for me. So I'm traveling with my colleague in Bulgaria, and this was before we had GPS, we had smartphones. Who remembers the old-fashioned paper maps? Yes. Well, I had one for Romania, but once we got across the border in Romania, we had no idea where we were going in Bulgaria. So we had instructions from the pastor how to get to the Bible college in Sofia. And we get there and we just end up horribly lost. And so we're driving around. We can't even tell the pastor where we're going because all the signs are in the Cyrillic alphabet. And so we're driving around. So we pull up into a gas station and I get in. I'm going to just quickly run in and buy a map. A paper map. And so we get in, Jan stays in the car because the car's running. I just run in to get a map. The pastor calls and he's like, where are you? And I'm like, I can't even explain. A gas station. Okay, this is a city of several million people, so I don't know what to tell you. And so he said, well, let me talk to the attendant. So I put the map on the table, hand him the phone. He speaks no English and I speak no Bulgarian, so I'm trying to communicate. So we're talking, and next thing I know, 6 huge giant men come in. They're fully in their security gear, and they're coming out of what is owned by the gas station, is co-owned, is also a nightclub and a casino, and who else knows what other illegal stuff is going on in that back area. And they come in and they're smoking and they're armed, and they come in, and next thing I know, they're surrounding me and they're trying to help me. And so they're all surrounding, and they're all talking Bulgarian, and they're very loud, and the pastor is my saving grace because he's on the other side of that phone. So as long as I hear the pastor's voice, I'm okay. And so I'm a little intimidated. I turn back outside, and I can see my colleague, and she's just, I'm praying for you. And she's laughing because she's just seeing me, and I'm just little compared to these huge giant men. And you know, and in the end, they just end up folding up the map, and they grab my arm, and we go outside, and the pastor gets on the phone. He goes, follow these men. And I said, do you know who they are? He goes, I have absolutely no idea who they are, but just follow them. And so I'm pretty certain God sent the mafia to help me out. So you never know. So finally, you know, a lot of people ask me, well, what do you do on your free time? Because, you know, they do allow us to have some free time. And so for me, I was telling Pastor Mark the other day that I kind of take unusual vacations. I like to travel to other countries, and I do fitness boot camp. Anybody with me? Boot camp, fitness? No? Okay, one, maybe. So, now I took 2 in UK, and there they speak English, sort of, kind of, but, you know, I can at least understand them. But in Bulgaria, again, I don't speak Bulgarian, so I go there, and we're having fun. We're doing sports. I can't talk to them, but we're having fun doing all these exercise stuff and sports. And one of the things that they do during the week is they teach us how to do Bulgarian folk dance. I'm not going to demonstrate, so don't worry. And so so they're teaching us this Bulgarian folk dance, and then at the end, there's myself, and there's Bulgarians, and then there's a couple from Egypt, and they think it's a brilliant idea. Let's have the foreigners teach a traditional dance from their countries. And so I have an hour. I'm up in my room panicking, going, "What's an American traditional dance?" And so I'm on YouTube, and so I work hard. I'm like, I'm going to represent America. I'm going to represent America. So we come down, and the wife of the Egyptian couple, they teach us belly dancing. Again, I'm not going to demonstrate, but so you guys would be so proud. I represented America well, and I taught this international group the boot scootin' boogie. Yes. And in fact, they loved it so much, the instructor said, we're keeping this in the program. I'm going to start teaching this from now on. So finally, you know, I just want to close with this short video to show you, you know, we've got to just find humor in the stresses of life. But when we can't find humor, we need to find some way to release our stress. And so this is my, you know, my missionary way of relieving stress.
Oh! Here I am with Tamara. She's training for missionaries. Wow. Warding off the headhunters. Oh, she's got 3. 4. He was a really tall one.
Thank you. So just an idea if you ever want to relieve stress, it really does work. So thank you so much, and it was my pleasure to be with all of you. And now it's my honor to introduce Jason Noble, who will be coming up. I've known Jason for a long time from our days back as children's pastors, and he's actually come and served in Romania. So let's give a warm welcome to Jason Noble.
Well, good evening, everybody. I have really good news. The dessert you're eating is all fat-free because it's Jesus. So don't even worry about all the calories, right? I hope you enjoy it. The dessert's great. Well, it has been my honor to be with you this week. We are planting down in Medford, Oregon, in the Rogue Valley in White City. It was funny, I was in a few of the circles of talking to small groups, and people said, man, the saying for White City is nothing good comes from White City. I go, well, we're changing that right now. We are going to see good things coming from White City. My wife wasn't able to be with me this week. We have 4 kids at home. We have a 22-year-old daughter who just got engaged. I'm not sure how that's all going to work. She's getting married in March, and so we're working through that. And then a 20-year-old son, and then we have 17-year-old twin girls. So, but man, it has been a journey. We don't have any, if you've been around ministry for any amount of time, you know there's crazy people in ministry. You've seen it in churches and people come and go. But we don't have any of those yet because we just launched on the 13th of September, but we do have crazy building stories. You know, people say, well, the church is in the building. When you're building a new church, the church is the building. And man, you have to understand, like, I have no idea how to build a building. I mean, like, I can barely, hit a hammer. So we walk in to this building back in September, and yeah, you know, how many of you know God has a sense of humor? He has a total sense of humor. And my wife told God, I will never go back to White City. How many of you know there's 2 things that you don't tell God? One, that you're never going to do something. And then the other thing is you never want to pray for patience either. Like, those are, like, God just seems to do that for us. And guess what? We got the call in September from the district. Hey, we've got a church for you that if you want to use and plant, it's going to be in White City. And I called my wife and I go, guess what? She knew I was talking to the district, and she goes, oh, we're going to White City. And I go, well, that's what they want. And she goes, well, I'll pray about it. I can't answer it yet. And so we did say yes. We walked into a building. How many of you know the building is the representation to the community of where God is? I mean, it's like if you go to a hospital, if you need an emergency room, you're going to look for a hospital. So we spent a lot of time on that building. We walk in, and the first thing we noticed is there was a pool table. And there are pictures of the building. There was a big pool table right in the sanctuary, right in the center of the sanctuary. And we're like, man, we could open this up as a billiard hall too. Friday nights, make a little, I'm just kidding. You walk in and you just go like, okay, this is crazy. And then they had a large, giant sound booth that was literally, it was like they built a house right in the sanctuary. And we got up underneath it, and it was just full of junk. That's the other thing. If you've been around church at all, you know storage units and all the junk that churches. We took out 4 tons worth of junk, throwing it away. But my wife got underneath this sound like the soundboard and the sound area, and there were these eyes staring back at her. And she turned the light on, and it was full of puppets, white eyes staring at her. And she's like, this is like the Night of the Living Dead. All of these puppets underneath the stage. So we got rid of those. There was a giant Christmas wreath. Churches keep stuff because they might use it again. And it was like this giant Christmas wreath. We had a big garage sale. We sold it for like $1. And the person that bought it ended up on our launch team. And she's like, well, I'm going to bring it back. And I said, no, I think you need to send it to Pastor Mark up here. You guys need a big giant wreath. And so we start tearing down walls and all this stuff that goes on. And I got this call one day from my daughter who had been down there. She was going to go pull out wires. There was illegal wires everywhere. There was, at that place, there were birds in the ceiling. Like, we hear all these birds living up there. If you ever tried to pull birds out of a roof, it's amazing how they build these, it gets all over. It's crazy. But I get this call, and my daughter goes, Dad, I crawled up into the attic, and I didn't realize that you were supposed to walk on wood. in the attic, and she had fallen through the sheetrock down to the floor, which, my wife goes, well, that's kind of a funny story. Do you ever know those people that laugh at people when they get hurt because they don't know what else to do? Well, that's kind of what my wife does. And so I go, man, but there was a pipe like this close from her. Then I get a call the next week that my other daughter, she's like, there's a riding lawnmower in the inside of the church. And she got this idea, 16-year-old, she gets this idea, she's like, I'm going to start this up, I'm going to drive it and see what happens. And she runs right into the back wall. I mean, you just go, okay. But it's been such a great journey just to be able to see all that God has done. The other thing about church planting that's crazy is I've been in established churches, but you get to the church and you realize, you don't have mops, and you don't have bars, there's not even a bookkeeper. You have to figure out all that stuff. It's like when you first get married, right? And you're sitting there and you realize that you don't have the stuff that your mom and dad had, and so all of that, we just had to, but God has been so faithful and has just shown up, and it's so exciting. The other thing about White City, I was talking to a guy the other day who's the chaplain for the police department and the fire department, and he goes, I just want to let you know, White City is one of the biggest gang-infested areas in all of Oregon. I go, great, that's exciting. And he goes, if they can't make it in LA, then they come up to White City and they're big stuff. And I go, okay, well, we're going to change that too, amen? We're going to change that. But one day we came in right after Thanksgiving, and we had set up all the sound system. We had gotten everything all set to go. In a church plant, you walk in the door, and at first you have nothing. I mean, basically, it's like we have a building, and that's it. They had sound equipment in there, and we walk into the sanctuary. We had it all set up, everything ready to go, and all the sound equipment was gone. It had been stolen the night before. And so we walked down the hallway, and literally, they didn't get all of it, but it was lined up. The rest of it was lined up to go out the back door. They were so smart. I mean, you talk about, they put it on piano dollies. They had it all lined up to go out the rest of the back door. You just have to laugh at that kind of stuff, right? When you're building a church and you're opening it. But I know that many lives are going to be changed. And when you look at it, my life is not much different than yours. I don't have any of the great missionary stories, but it's amazing to see what God has done and what He's going to do. I want to show you kind of our launch video, give you a picture. That was our Park and Pray. What we realized was with COVID, we didn't need a building, so let's start ministering to people. When all the other churches in town closed, I'm like, man, we can do it in our parking lot. So we did it. We did Easter in our parking lot. We did a Park and Pray where we had people drive through. It just said, God, whatever we can do to reach our community. So I want to show you this real quick, the launch, and let you hear from my wife. Hello, my name is Jason Noble, and this is my wife, Paula. We are planting a church in the Rogue Valley here in Southern Oregon. Our church is called Hope City Church, and we are so excited about what God is doing. We live in a beautiful place, but there are people who are broken and who are lost and who are looking for an answer in their life. Our goal is to spread hope, to give people hope. Right. And we're so excited to help to be an answer to that, to partner with other churches in the community, other churches in the region. We'd love to invite you to be a part. So Paula, what's our mission? Tell us about that.
So we are creating an atmosphere where people are fully loved. So they can experience God's full love for them and in return love each other fully. Where people are safe to heal, bring their stuff, no matter what it is, and feel like they're accepted and they're loved right where they are, and encouraged to experience God's full love and healing for their inner wounds, and then equipping them to make a difference in other people's lives around them. That's what Hope City is all about, a place where you're fully loved, safe to heal, and equipped to make a difference.
It's kind of a place where people can get just a fresh breath of air.
Absolutely.
Where they can walk in and they just feel loved. And you know what? No matter what you look like, no matter what your past is, no matter where you're at this moment, Hope City is a church for you. We want to love you where you're at and help you to become better, help you to identify what your next step is on the journey.
We want to invite you to come and join us for our first launch Sunday of Hope City Church on September 13th at 9 and 11 a.m. Our address is 3396 Avenue A in White City, and we can't wait to see you there.
And we launched on September 13th with 200 people in the midst of all the fires and all of COVID and everything else. And God is good. Amen. So thank you. Man, it's been my honor to be here. You guys have been such a blessing to me this week and such a breath of fresh air. So thank you. I love your passion. I was telling Pastor, I was with your millennials in the small group that has all the kids, right? Like they're going to bust your nursery up. I'm telling you right now, like all of those kids, but they were so generous, and you just see generosity going through every layer of this church. And I want to say thank you, and thank you again for allowing me to be a part. Man, I get to introduce you to an incredible missionary, Joel Marbut, who serves in Ecuador. I love his heart. He's a great guy, great stories. Let's give him a hand as he comes.
Thank you guys so much, and it's such a privilege to be with you guys again and see so many familiar faces, and so many of you guys have been a part of what we do in Ecuador. And for us, we kind of feel like family here, maybe the crazy uncle that you never want to tell anybody you're related to, and if you don't know who that crazy uncle is, then you're probably him. We have been in Ecuador now over 20 years, and it's just been an incredible learning curve. And my wife, who's a missionary kid, she hasn't had nearly as many growing pains as this guy has. But I remember the first time I ever went into an indigenous village, and no one had really prepped me. Some of you guys, I just know that some of you guys remember life before internet, before you could Google things. And so I remember riding completely ignorantly into this village. And as soon as I got into the village, the little lady came out, and she was so honored that we were there. And the entire village was gathered around, and she came out with this gourd that was filled with this white, milky-looking substance. And she brought it up to me, and she said, "You're our honored guest. Here's the chicha for you to drink." And have you ever asked a question that you really wish you would not have asked? Like I said, what is it? And she goes, "Oh, we have chewed this yucca root, and we've spit it into the bucket, and we've let it ferment for about a week, knowing that you were going to come." And then the guy that I'm with, he's like, "If you don't drink it, then they're going to be offended. They're not going to listen to us." And at that moment, I'm having this incredible dilemma interior, in my internal parts, thinking like, did Paul really mean I can do all things when he said that? Was he talking about this? And I don't really think he was, as much as I studied that out. But I took, I'm like a country boy. I grew up in a small town. I'm like, I'm a can-do. I can clean my plate. You can't put anything in front of me that I'm not going to eat. And I took a deep breath, and I drank it. I drank every bit of it. It was probably about a quart, of this incredible drink. So I took a deep breath, and I drank it all, and I gave it to the lady, and she smiled. She's got 3 teeth, She's so happy. And she said, "Oh, you're so thirsty. Let me get you another one." The guy that was with me is like, "You sip it. Just sip it." That was that was great. I would appreciate that piece of information at the beginning of the day, right? And some of you guys have worked with us on volunteer teams, and we have tons of people that have partnered with us over the years, helping us with construction projects from churches to Bible schools to the girls' home, the Ecuador Hope House. And so many times we just can't go forward and do the things that we have to do without that help. That's just a massive, incredible injection of help to us. But ever so often on those teams, we have someone on the team that's just kind of like a burr in the saddle. You know what I'm talking about? Like they just kind of rub everybody the wrong way, and they don't really know the line. They're joking with people, but they kind of go way beyond what the joking is and everything else. And so we had this one particular guy. He was just kind of rubbing everybody on the team the wrong way, and all week long it's kind of been going on. And we're on a roof together, running the ridge cap of this roof for a church in a very remote village, and he comes up to me with a look of panic in his face, and I can tell that the food, the water, something's caught up with him, because he's got to go, and he's kind of desperate, and I can tell the cold sweat beads coming on his head, and he says, "Where's the bathroom?" I said, "Dude, there's no bathroom out here. Just pick a tree. You got to go out to a tree somewhere and just go to the bathroom. Just go off, be quiet." I said, "Don't make anything." So here he goes. The entire village is around, right? So he just shimmies down the roof, and he dropping his tool belt, and he takes off, and I watch him get about 30 yards away from the church. And then I do something, Like I call all the kids in the village over. I'm like, hey kids, come over here. And all the kids are coming over, and this, I don't know, maybe 85, 90 kids. I said, that guy over there, he's got candy. So all of a sudden, out of the bushes, I hear, hey, where's that kid? Oh my God, what are y'all doing? He comes hopping out of the bushes with his pants around his ankles. And everybody on the team was just ecstatic at my decision to do that to that guy. It was just so fitting. And then, my wife has been raised on the mission field and has had so many incredible encounters throughout the years. When she was a young lady, 13, 14 years old, her dad took her to the jungle. She didn't grow up in the jungle. And when she was 13, 14 years old, God called her to be a missionary when she was in the jungle. And during this trip, her dad took her out to an outpost, and there was a little boy in the village that was Down syndrome. And she tells me the story. She said, I remember coming into the village with my dad, and there was a little boy that was just completely naked, and he had on rubber boots. And he's just standing there holding a horse, nothing else, just smiling. And his name's Leader. And Leader's deaf, and she's spent a little bit of time with him and loved on him as a little boy, and nothing happened. Just 20 years pass. 20 years later, we show back up in the same village just to visit this little church to preach. And we're there, and the entire village is packed inside the church. And as we're pulling into the village, she sees Leader. He's a grown man now. And he sees her, and she waves. And my wife's the only blind that these people have ever seen, so she just sticks out like a sore thumb. And we're in the middle of this church service, and we're getting ready to get up to preach. And here comes Leader from the back door, and he walks into the front of the church. And everyone's sitting down. The entire village is sitting inside the church. Everyone's sitting down. He walks right in front of the entire church, in front of my wife, in front of myself. He takes both hands and he shoves them inside of his shorts. And he pulls out a papaya. And he hands it to my wife with a big smile. My wife looks at me and says, thank God it was a papaya. And I thought to myself, how fitting of an incredible gift just to show that somebody 20 years before had treated another human with dignity. And, we're so incredibly blessed and thankful for everything this church stands for. And, I know that this year is so challenging, but what I believe wholeheartedly is this year, your church is shining like never before. And I think this is the greatest year that you guys are ever going to have during your sacrificial giving week. I believe it wholeheartedly.
Have you enjoyed our guests this week? Yes, let's show them that we appreciate them. We're so grateful that you've given your a whole week and 2 weekends for Hope Church and the partnering churches. Thank you for joining us. What a great night. As you know, this is not the end of Missions Week. We still have one more day. Tomorrow's our final day. And in the morning, we'll have Joel Marbett with us in the morning, and the others will be at the other partnering churches. And then in the evening, we will have our big missions celebration gathering. So you're not going to want to miss it. We'll be streaming it online through our website and through YouTube. But if you can make it, come and be a part. We'll have the Family Center, the Sanctuary. We'll have Joel Act Chapel available, and if needed, we'll even have the youth center. So we will be ready for you, so please join us. Before we finish up, just let me say a few thank yous. We already thanked our guests, but let me also say I'd like to thank our missions team. Our missions team serves every month we get together. We pray. Yeah, if you were on a missions team, would you stand up? I know many of them are here tonight. They came to this final gathering. So if you're here on the missions team, stand up. Thank you so much. And let me just tell you, they came to the final one because they're going to help clean out. That shows you the heart behind these individuals. But we're just grateful for them. They pray, they read through all the newsletters, looking for how we can pray opportunities, how we may be able to partner. So thank you for what you do. We also want to make sure we thank our kitchen staff. And I know we can clap for them, but I don't. Oh, yeah, there we go. There's the kitchen staff. He made it all. But if you enjoyed that regurgitated cheesecake, on the way out, peek your head in the door. Thank Pam Darling. She was the baker behind it. Rich Ransom's a big part of it, and their entire team. Also, our servers who served you tonight, Andrew, Sadie, all the young adult, young life guys and gals that were here. Thank you so much. And then our tech team, Pastor Corey and Pastor Derek have been here. So thank you so much. As Pastor Mark mentioned earlier, please be praying about your sacrifice offering. Maybe the Lord's spoken to you what to give. If you'd like to give that tonight, Sadie's going to be back here with our offering envelope, offering container, not envelope. You can put your offering envelope in it, or just bring it tomorrow. But and then the other thing is you can be praying about Faith Promise too. And we support over 70 missionaries every month, and that mainly because of those who've made faith promises and then give every month. So thank you so much. As I said, the snacks are yours to take, even the ones on tables that haven't been used. If you'd like to take them, please. They're we don't want them to go to waste. Take them home with you. The vases are for your taking, except for the vases on the 2 table back there. You can't take those. But if they're in the mason jars, feel welcome to take those. Take them home with you if you like to enjoy them. We don't want to throw them away if we don't have to. And other than that, I think that's it. We're going to pray and we'll dismiss. Father, again, we thank you for letting us be a part of what happens here every year at Missions Week. And Lord, I believe, like Joel mentioned, Lord, let this be the best year yet when it comes to sacrifice. God, let it be the best year yet. And we want to bless our missionaries. We want to be a part of what you're doing in Ecuador, Lord, what you're doing in Central Asia, Lord, what you're doing, Lord God, in Montenegro and in Southern Oregon. We just pray that you bless the offering and that you bless their hands, Lord God, as they serve you in these different parts of the world. Lord God, may you cause the harvest to come to being. May there be souls in heaven. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you so much. Have a great night.